Some very interesting news came to light that involves a very popular fitness influencer whom I'm sure you've all seen at some point, the Liver King. He's most known for his videos eating raw meat, raw organs, raw testicles even, which goes so hard, and he preaches the ancestral primal way of living and says that you can achieve his ungodly physique, and his body does look like something straight out of Dragon Ball Z or Baki the Grappler. He says you can achieve that 100% naturally by following his 9 tenets. And he is also a very successful businessman. He has tons of companies under his belt that he claims makes him over $100 million a year. And just a couple days ago, much like my ass after eating spicy food, a big leak happened. Emails between the Liver King and a coach that he was turning to for some advice have now hit the public eye. And these emails indicate some juice usage here, and some pretty expensive juicing at that, which completely goes against everything he preaches because he vehemently defends his body being natural. He has said millions of times now across tons of podcasts, his own content, saying he has never touched this stuff and never would. He is 100% natural. But now we have a lot of evidence to suggest that that's completely false and just a blatant lie. Now, this is probably the least shocking news you've ever heard because anyone with eyes should be able to look at the Liver King's body and immediately deduce that this is not a naturally achievable physique in any universe. And especially not for someone of his age, mid-40s, he'd have to have had genetics gifted straight from Mount Olympus. And most fitness professionals have called him out over the years saying that he's juiced to the gills. And I mean, just look at him. Like, I could swim in his veins. They're so fucking huge. Like, this man has more sauce in his body than a Chick-fil-A. Even when he's sitting down, just look at his abs. His six-pack is more defined than 4K television, and they have more depth than a Game of Thrones season. It's beyond me how anyone ever believed that his body was naturally achieved. It's been very clear and has been called out many times that he is absolutely on the gear, but a lot of people just wanted to believe in the teachings and hope that they could get something similar. But realistically, the only way you get a body similar to the Liver King's is if you somehow get chosen for the Captain America Super Serum or start cycling some very heavy-duty stuff here. Now, what you're looking at here is everything that Liver King said he'd been taking. This is part of the emails with the coach. And if you want a more in-depth breakdown of what all of this is, More Plates, More Dates, which is the channel that broke all of this, goes into very good detail about what all of this is. So you can see there is a lot that he's taking here, and from what I've read, this comes around to about $15,000 a month worth of these enhancements, these unnatural enhancements to get him his body. And I want to be clear here, I'm not just vilifying anyone who uses steroids or anything to help them achieve their fitness goals. I think that's totally within their own right as a personal choice that they make. Yes, of course, it's dangerous, but it's their choice, and who am I to stop them from doing that? If they get medical supervision, of course, that's going to help. The problem that I have here, as well as many other people, is that he's selling a lie. He's blatantly lying, saying that what I have achieved is naturally achievable if you just follow my 9 ancestral tenets, none of which contributed to the HGH that he was boofing up his fucking asshole here to get him these incredible results. Like, none of that is what he is selling. He's not selling any of these steroids, he's selling hopium.
If you want to be a top king, if you want unlimited access to cars, money, and if you want to find your queen, then you have to fuel your efforts with ancestral supplements, liver, beef organs, and bone marrow with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because liver is king. And you already know, with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, always gonna have a whole feast protein shake.
This is a clip from More Plates, More Dates, who made an amazing breakdown on this entire situation that I highly recommend. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. But I wanted to show you one of his advertisements for some of his brands here. And I just feel like this is super scummy because he's making it sound like these supplements, you know, are really helpful to getting you jacked like me, the Liver King, whose nipples could probably shoot milk fucking 50 yards away with how big my pecs are. Like, he's making it seem like he got huge from these things, and now he's revealing these secrets and selling them to you so you can get big and strong like him. But that's not really the whole story, clearly. It seems like he had a lot of help from a old human growth hormone over here. It's not really the supplements he's selling that worked for him. it's the goddamn HGH and everything else that he was taking. So it just seems like he's selling all of these dietary supplements knowing full well they're not exactly necessary, and it seems like it's done just to squeeze a couple extra dollars out of his audience here. But I don't think everything he's done or said is harmful. Of course, all of the raw meat eating shit is pretty dangerous. Like, that's not optimal. That's not good advice to just go out there and eat fucking raw meat. Like, you should, especially not raw testicles. I don't think anyone should be listening to the Liver King and start panicking like, holy shit, I want to get huge biceps and a fucking bulging turtle shell six-pack. I'm going to go run outside right now and skin a squirrel and eat the balls off of it raw. Like, none of that I think is good advice, of course. And of course, none of his like primal stuff really matters. Like, your mindset of being a primal man's not going to all of a sudden make you jacked or anything. But he does give just like wholesome life advice, which I suppose could be motivational or inspirational to some people that need to hear those things about like having a more positive frame of mind and a positive approach to living life and making time for yourself and having fun, which is all very cliche and not exactly profound stuff, but he does sprinkle those things in, which is just generally decent advice, like making sure you're taking care of your mentality first and foremost, and not just for gains, but for the sake of just better overall living. Like, all of that advice I think is fine. It's more so when he gets into this stuff where he's, of course, blatantly hiding that he does have a past of using steroids and is very much still on those unnatural boosters and pretending he's not. All of that is a big problem, and all of the stuff he seems to be selling, of course, isn't necessary, and it's not like the key to getting big in the first place. Maybe it helps some people, but it's not exactly as he's advertising it. Now, when it's all said and done, I'm sure there's a lot of people in his audience, a lot of his fans that probably don't care and probably always knew that he was on gear, and they'll probably still follow the ancestral way of living he preaches because maybe they like it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the ancestral shit he talks about, like sleeping on a goddamn block of wood or being afraid of Wi-Fi signals in the house and shit like that. I think that's all just super silly stuff. He became huge in the first place because of his over-the-top raw meat eating and his wild physique. People wanted to look like him because he looks like an absolutely jacked Radagast the Brown from Lord of the Rings. So people bought into his program under the assumption that if they follow this, follow the ancestral tenets, maybe buy from his other companies that all filter from the Liver King overall brand, maybe they too could look like him. But now that this information has come to light, it's clear that what he has achieved with his own body is only replicatable if you also start cycling that kind of juice. Not from following his program or taking his bone marrow supplements. Now, he has had somewhat of a response to this information coming out, but it's a pretty confusing one. According to the Daily Beast, his response was, "In a weird way, I'm grateful for the recent events that have shed light on this complicated as fuck topic." He then followed it up by humbly requesting that podcasts have him on to discuss his lifestyle, and then says, "I model, teach, and preach a simple, elegant solution called ancestral living, the 9 ancestral tenets, so our people no longer have to suffer so we can collectively express our highest and most dominant form. This is my fight." So really doesn't say much of anything, just drops a fucking nothing burger on the plate, and that meat is raw. Like, there's nothing here. He doesn't really give any information. It seems like he once again wants to squeeze clout out of this situation by openly asking to go on podcasts, which he's made a habit out of. He's been on more podcasts than anyone I've ever seen in my fucking life. Any podcast you can think of off the top of your head, like maybe your local college campus podcast, he's probably been on it. Like, he has been on everything because he openly says, anytime people are talking about me, it's a good thing. Whether it's negative or positive, like there was a whole conspiracy about him potentially having ab implants. He says, you know what, that's great too, if people are talking about me. So he wants as much attention as possible, always has, and even in this situation here, is looking to capitalize off it for the sake of publicity. So I guess maybe when he does go on his next podcast, we'll have more information on his side of things, but as of right now, we don't have a whole lot from him to go off of, but we do have a lot of evidence that I do think is reputable. I don't see a lot of wiggle room for that being fake. I trust the source. I think More Plates, More Dates is very reliable when it comes to information like this, and he delivers a very in-depth look at all of it. Again, I can't recommend his video enough if you're interested in this topic. So yeah, I just wanted to go over this because I've talked about Liver King quite a bit. And I will say, while More Plates, More Dates has convinced me Liver King doesn't have ab implants, I full-heartedly believe he has had ab etching. At the very least, ab etching done. It makes no fucking sense to me how he's able to have such a defined six-pack bulging, bursting from his skin, even while sitting down. That doesn't make sense. It looks like the top of a fucking grill at all times. It looks like it's made out of actual steel. Like, there's just no way. And of course, now it seems like he's been on quite a bit of juice for a while now, but even with that, there's still just no way those abs would work that way. It just makes no sense. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about this topic a little bit, and that's about it. See ya. Okay, let's see the Liver King response. This is, again, a follow-up to the big expose from More Plates, More Dates that revealed in an email that Liver King isn't natty. He was communicating with a coach to get advice on his stack, referring to like the HGH and everything he was cycling. Which is a big deal because Liver King has always defended that he's 100% natural. All you need to do to look like him is follow the 9 ancestral tenets. And he has a ton of companies, claims to make $100 million a year, but it's all based on being able to look like him through natural stuff, which isn't the case. So this is him coming out about it. If I had to spitball a guess, I would imagine Liver King takes this directly. I don't think he's going to try and like claim it's all deep faked. He's not going to claim it's reptilians behind the scenes of the puppet master that faked the emails. He strikes me as someone who's going to try and take it head on and just hope that the majority of his audience doesn't care. That's my guess.
I'm making this video to apologize. Because I fucked up.
This is kind of quiet.
Because I'm embarrassed and ashamed. I've stated that this is a complicated as fuck topic, at least to me it is, because before social media, I was rich and anonymous. And after social media, I'm still rich, but no longer anonymous. And I never expected this kind of exposure.
That was very frank.
In the public eye.
That's what I mentioned briefly in the video. Way before he was the Liver King, he was still super rich. Like, he was still very rich.
Clearly, I did it wrong. And I'm here now to set the record straight. Yes, I've done steroids.
Classic YouTuber sigh.
Yes, I am on steroids, monitored and managed by a trained hormone clinician. Liver King, the public figure, was an experiment to spread the message, to bring awareness to the 4,000 people a day who kill themselves. The 80,000 people a day that try to kill themselves. Our people are hurting at record rates with depression, autoimmune, anxiety, infertility, low ambition in life.
This is all very sweet and everything, but you deliver a message and then sell products based around the message, of which you just admitted a large portion of it, your physique, is a lie. Now, if you were just like a motivational speaker or just like a normal YouTuber, Instagram guy who delivers positive messages, that's one thing. You being on steroids and everything, like, that's not that big of a deal. But the fact that you constantly defended being natty and sell all these programs based around it, and then aren't actually the result of those things you talk about, is pretty misleading. Which he does admit, but spinning it as like this positive thing where I'm only here to try and help all these people who are struggling isn't super genuine when you're making so much money off them. Like, you could still just be delivering that message for free. They don't need to like pay for it if your main goal is to just deliver a positive message. I appreciate like the very upfront honesty. Like, yep, I am on steroids. He didn't try and tiptoe around it. He just came in there and spread the cheeks wide open and letting us see the filthy truth on it. That's admirable. But this immediate spin about how it's all for the people that are struggling and wanting to kill themselves, that I don't put much stock into when you're making so much money off of these programs. Like, that's clearly not the main goal when you're very much taking as much money for it as you can. Hey, Charles here with a little post-game aftermath reflection. After watching the video, I get the impression this is more of an I'm sorry I got caught situation as opposed to an I'm sorry I did it. I'm still not 100% sure, but after watching it, that's more the vibe I got. I wanted to put this towards the beginning of the video just to get this out there before continuing with the apology video. And I want to also let it be known that this isn't some shocking revelation. No one heard that Liver King was on the juice and was like frantically Googling for the evidence because they couldn't believe it. Like, pretty much anyone with eyes and anyone that knows anything about fitness realized that his body wasn't naturally achievable. Like, Jesus Christ, just look at his abs. They look like Lego blocks. That shit looks like it's made out of titanium. You could hit it with a sledgehammer and it'd probably just break the sledgehammer. Most people could tell that he had more juice in his body than a Snapple factory. It wasn't a naturally achievable body type, but he always defended tooth and nail that he was natty 100% and he'd never touched HGH, steroids, anything of that caliber. But that's just a blatant lie. And when his whole product is being sold based on this physique that he's lying about, it seems exceptionally scummy to me. Just lying to his audience and getting them to buy into things under a false notion.
And when asked if I've ever taken steroids, I've always said no. I don't touch this stuff, not gonna touch this stuff, never touch the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lie.
Yeah.
I've convinced myself that this had nothing to do with the ancestral message. I convinced myself that I'm not a competitive athlete of any kind, so who the fuck am I cheating?
You're cheating your audience. I'm still early, so maybe he comes to that realization since he prefaces it by saying, I convinced myself, past tense. But, like, yeah, you're not competing. You're not going to jail for taking steroids, but you're cheating the people that believed in you and believed in the message about looking like you, or at least something comparable. You are cheating them.
So I continually dismissed it, and I dug myself into a bigger and deeper hole.
True.
I have only myself to blame. I did that.
That is
And
true.
it was all wrong. I will be better. I will talk about it openly because I believe that there's a time and a place for pharmacological intervention monitored and managed by a trained hormone physician. Nope. The liver...
See, like, had his message... Had he come out from the genesis of Liver King, from the primordial ooze of liver and a king, if he had come out and been like, look at this physique. This is not a naturally achievable physique. I am on steroids. And then started preaching his message, I don't think he would have ever had a problem. He probably still would have found a very similar level. The spiritual pressure of the Liver King was too much for my internet to handle. It took out the entire power grid, so stream cut out there for a moment, so I'll finish my statement here. What I was saying is he would have still found a high level of success if he was just upfront and honest about his PED usage, because he still has an absurd physique. He has a body that looks like 3 Gears of War characters did a fusion dance. So people would have still went to his content for like workout advice and like general life advice, and he has preached some positive stuff as well as some genuinely wacky stuff that people eat up. They love it. So he would have still found an audience while being open about using these HGH steroids and stuff like that. And he wouldn't have had to lie to them and mislead them about what the human body is capable of achieving naturally. But if you're going to say, I'm natural, when you're not, and then sell programs under the belief that they too can look like you, that to me just screams like scam. Like knowingly just misleading them. Yeah, I feel like Liver King's just living in the past where everyone was demonized for using PEDs. I feel like in the modern landscape of the fitness industry, like fitness influencers, most of them are super open with PED usage. I think most people know the majority of fitness influencers are on some level of juice, and they're okay with that.
Why did I, or why do I do them?
Well, it's not a
When
hard
I talk
question.
about the 85% of the population that suffers from self-esteem issues, that's me. I'm part of that statistic. This is why I fucking work myself to death in the gym. This is why I do 12 to 15 blood-burning workouts a week, just to feel like I'm okay. That have shed light on this complicated as fuck topic. I knew I needed to take this opportunity.
I just don't think it's complicated. He's probably being very honest about self-esteem issues. That's very common when it comes to bodybuilding. But it's also not hard to understand why you would take them in his position. He needs to stand out in the fitness industry. Well, how do you stand out in the fitness industry? You need to carve out a niche. Well, with so many fitness influencers out there, it's a saturated market. What niche? How about something primal? Something like very old school. Paleo diet was huge, so why not something even harder in that realm? And I'm going to really need to look super special to stand out. So you turn to enhancements like HGH and everything. It's a pretty like easily understandable reasoning for taking it. Of course, self-esteem probably does play into it because body dysmorphia is so common with fitness. But I think probably the main driver, especially with the emails, makes it sound like it was a manufactured idea from the get-go. I need to get super jacked. I need to be super standoutish. So I need these pretty impressive stack to do that for my business. Seems more like a business decision. But of course, I do imagine he's being honest that there is a self-esteem element to that. But it absolutely, undeniably, was the main reason his brand was so popular.
I am as sorry as a man can be. And all I can do is take extreme ownership right now, be better, and lead myself to a better life as a better human. Again, thank you to everyone for the support, the criticism, the love, the hate, and above all else, the loyalty. Liver King.
I do think he's minimizing the magnitude of misleading people when you run a business like this, because you're selling them a false idea and you continue to lie about it. I think that's a much bigger issue than he's letting on, or maybe he doesn't realize how scummy that is. But overall, it seemed like he accepted responsibility for all of his lying, which is a good start. He didn't try and put that blame elsewhere. He didn't really try and deflect it. He downplayed that quite a bit, but it wasn't a horrible apology by any means. You think he's going to keep using it, or will he quit? And what's your guess on how much muscle he'll lose? He's not going to stop using it. I still think, even though his audience, judging by the comments, is very much on his side, if he didn't look like this, they would probably stop watching. And he knows that, so he's not going to stop. I think he's just going to be more open about it. I think that's the only path forward for him, but I don't see a world where he stops using. At the end of 2022, the Liver King was one of the biggest names in the fitness industry. But at the beginning of the year, a mere 8 months ago, it all came crumbling down thanks to one video from More Plates, More Dates, where he exposed that Liver King's entire online presence was based upon a lie. Liver King had always preached the primal lifestyle, known for eating a bunch of wacky foods and raw meats. Like, he has more testicles in his videos than Riley Reid's entire filmography. His big thing was eating all of these testicles and slurping down tons of liver, gluttonously consuming an endless supply of exotic meats, and all the while preaching that it's ancestral living. And he'd lead his followers to believe that if they purchase his supplements and his supplies and eat like him, they could look like him. And obviously, a lot of people fell hook, line, and sinker for that scam because he has a very impressive physique. He looks like an anime character straight out of Baki the Grappler. The goofball's got muscles on his body that haven't even been invented yet. And his veins are just bulging out of his skin. It looks like they're transporting diesel throughout his body. And he would keep telling them, like, if you work hard, you buy my shit, you eat like me, you live like me, following the ancestral tenets, you can be like me, look like me. And it was all completely a lie. It turns out he was juiced to the gills. He was on tons and tons of performance-enhancing products, and More Plates, More Dates brought that to the public eye. Eventually, it forced Liver King himself to just admit that he lied about all of it. He lied. His body isn't the result of following the ancestral tenets or glorbing down on animal testicle for every meal. It's the result of steroids. So, I saw a video floating around on Twitter today, one of his more recent posts, and he's looking extremely rough. So I just wanted to do a little checkup on where Liver King is 8 months post-exposing.
In the modern world, we like to have our bowl of cereal, don't we? This is a primal version of your bowl of cereal. I got my testicles in farm-fresh milk from Liver King Ranch.
Yeah, it's business as usual. He's doing the exact same stuff as he was prior to having all of the steroid usage come to light. But it looks like he's aged 20 years in the last 8 months. It looks like he's one testicle sandwich away from actually exploding. In every TikTok I've seen of him, his body is bright red. It looks like Arnold's face in the movie Total Recall when he takes his helmet off in space and his eyes pop out of his skull, like right before blowing up. That's what Liver King's body looks like. It looks like it is struggling to stay in one piece. Also, a lot of people on Twitter pointed this out, and it's a really good point. It is still so silly how he keeps calling his diet primal living, eating like our ancestors, when this is the furthest thing from primal eating. All of his meals are meticulously prepared by his personal chef and his whole team. He used to say this thing on his videos where if you don't hunt it, you don't eat it, which is just so dumb because clearly he's not hunting for all of this meat. Like, he's eating more meat than Luffy in One Piece. There is no way he'd be able to hunt for all of that. The only reason he's able to eat like he does in these videos is because he is indulging in the modern excess. He is doing nothing even remotely associated with living primal. I guess aside from the bed he sleeps on, because he basically sleeps on a fucking plank of wood. Dude goes to bed in a coffin like a muscle vampire. That's like the only ancestral type thing he does, because his diet is the furthest thing from it. It is literally the result of being super privileged in the modern excess era.
The most feared warriors, the Maasai. What they get down on is milk, meat, and blood. And they are expressing a higher, more dominant form. If you still want your primal cereal to taste like Cocoa Pebbles at the end.
That weak-ass chocolate powder that he's dumping in from his brand is not going to salvage this primal bowl of cereal. It's not going to make it taste like Cocoa Pebbles. It's going to make it taste like Cocoa Puke. It also really made me giggle that he just didn't even have the energy to actually mix the powder with the milk. So he ends up just consuming it with just powder on top of milk. It's so weird, though, that he even bothered calling this a bowl of cereal primal style. It has nothing in common with that other than there just being milk in a bowl. That's where all the similarities stop. He could have just presented this culinary crime as just like a wacky little shocking dish, like, hey, check this one out, here's 4 testicles and some milk. But anyway, I do think he's upped his usage of the PEDs. It seems like he is in a much different state now than he was 8 months ago, and not for the better. In most of the TikToks I watched from him, he seemed much more physically drained much quicker. He seemed to have significantly less energy. His physique doesn't look significantly different than it used to, but it looks less human, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't look like muscles anymore. It looks like he has a bunch of rocks under his skin disguising themselves as muscles, like in the shape of muscles.
Put a little bit of whole feast in with your testicles. Make sure you peel back the membrane on the testicle. You can use a spoon if you want, but God gave you the hands for a reason.
I honestly feel pretty bad to a certain extent here. Like, it feels like his muscles have gained their own sentience at this point from so many steroids that they now have a mind of their own, and they're working the Liver King like a puppet. They're in his brain pulling levers like that alien in Men in Black 1, so they're forcing him to keep, staying on the gear, never letting him stop. And it's just kind of sad. Because to me, this screams that he's trapped doing this forever because it's his livelihood, it's his financial security, and the livelihood of his entire family. So he needs to keep amping up the extreme meals that he's eating. So he's eating chicken heads and peeling the tongue out of frogs in one of his other TikToks, most recent ones. Like, he just has to keep amping that up so people keep watching, and then he has to keep injecting and stay on all the gear so that way his physique stays the same so people keep watching. And I feel really awful for his audience that is still buying his products in the hopes that they can look even remotely similar to how he does. They can't. Hop off the hopium. No matter how closely you follow his ancestral tenets and no matter how many of his products you buy, you will not have a body that looks like his unless you also get on all of the gear he's using in the same amounts of it. That is the only way. His body is not naturally achievable. Period. Full stop. Now, another thing he's begun doing on his TikTok is he's been posting a lot more content in very expensive shit that is very clearly not ancestral living. So this is a screenshot from one of his more recent TikToks where he's on his private jet and has his personal chef Lionel serve him up some snakes on a plane. So he makes some snakes for him to eat. It's clearly a joke off of the old meme, motherfucking snakes on the plane and all that. So he's very tardy to the party on that meme. That one died like a decade ago. But what's really interesting here is that he's unashamedly showing that he doesn't actually even follow his own ancestral living lifestyle advice, really. Like, being on a private jet is the furthest possible thing from primal living. And some of his audience even called him out, saying, our private jet's primal. And I guess, it's his world, we're just eating testicles in it, so he just comes up with some arbitrary excuse on why it's totally fine. So he says, a true primal left the comfort of the cave for adventure and a better life. Flying private falls squarely in the better life department. What a cop-out. So basically, I make the rules, fuck you. Like, that doesn't make any sense. By this logic, you could also make the same argument for actually everything else. Why eat all the raw meat that you preach about? True primals in search of a better life learn to cook food. And it helped them find a better life. So why wouldn't cooking all of the meals be the preferred way, since it is the better life component of your primal definition? It doesn't add up. It's just one of those things where rules for thee, not for me. He doesn't practice what he preaches. I said this a long time ago. I am very confident everything he showed in his lifestyle video was a big old load of baloney. Just actual fucking horseradish. I don't think he sleeps on a bed of wood, basically. I think he has a luxury $20,000 mattress infused with diamonds somewhere, because he lives a very lavish lifestyle and always has, and everything he's ever put online has been a lie, especially when it comes to his physique and what he actually does in order to look the way he does. But now he's just getting more and more egregious with the lie here. Like, this isn't even really trying to even pretend that you follow your own ancestral tenets and primal living. This is clearly all just marketing. Always has been, always will be when it comes to the Liver King. He is just, in every single video, pumping his Liver King bars, Liver King powders, supplements, all kinds of just completely worthless things that nobody watching him needs. And if you're someone that's watching him and buying these things hoping to get in better shape, then you can find significantly better products on the market that aren't the Liver Kings. Compared to the rest of the industry, his products are very weak. They're not the best available, so you could benefit far more from doing research outside of the Liver King echo chamber and finding much better supplements and powders than what he's currently offering. Holy shit, this fly has not left the entire video. I'm having my own primal battle right now against nature here, Jesus. But the point is, he is a fraud. He has been exposed as a fraud. And 8 months later, he is still doing the exact same thing, but he looks a lot worse now because I really feel like he is only amplifying his gear usage, much to his overall health detriment, I imagine, and only amplifying the extreme nature of his wacky meals. So that's just kind of the little 8-month update on the Liver King here. That's really about it. So, yep. Yes, I've seen everything that's been happening with the Liver King recently. This is someone that I've talked about over the years, and recently it's pretty clear something has happened to his mental. It's downright sad and scary, actually. He got arrested like 2 days ago now for making terroristic threats against Joe Rogan, even going so far as to travel to Austin, seemingly with the sole purpose of attacking him, or, in his words, challenging him and fighting him honorably.
Or anything and everything. Because Joe Rogan, we don't have to make videos to pretend anymore. All of this is happening. We're coming to you. I've challenged you man to man to a fight. Honorable. And we don't have to pretend or make any videos. The world is watching. They'll make the videos for us. And you don't have to hold a camera. You can hold the hand of somebody that you love, because what happens next to you, you're going to need to remember that feeling. You're going to need something more than what you did.
He's going around feral on all fours here, and then mentions how he's going to need the hand of a loved one to remember that feeling for what he did. But it's never clear where this even really comes from. People can only speculate and come up with game theories on what even started this in the first place. But it's very concerning behavior here. Like, the videos he's posted reminds me of the Joker tape from The Dark Knight. It feels like he's perpetually trying to cut a WWE promo targeting Joe Rogan here, but when he's doing these call-outs, it really does seem like an extreme threat against Joe Rogan's life, and a lot of it is incomprehensible. So a ton of like non-sequiturs jumping all over the place, so it's incoherent. So it'll be like, you and I are going to fight one-on-one, this is a formal challenge, pugilistic, the old-fashioned way. I'm gonna come over there, I'm gonna rip those giant nipples right off your chest, those cow udders, I'm gonna wipe my whole ass with them. And then, have you ever had a dream that you thought you had and you wanted and you didn't do anything? I think it's very clear that there is actually a serious problem that he is facing, mentally, that is. I don't know how long it's been happening. I haven't kept up with the Liver King as much as I did during like the whole steroid thing, but it is very concerning. And even when it's not about Joe Rogan, his posts are just generally alarming.
I'm gonna make a quick video to weigh myself right now. In case you didn't know, I take shits on the ground. This is where I lay in the shower. I lay here on the ground. That's my enema bucket. That's my enema bucket right there. And that's what I'm about to do, is I'm gonna try and get a shit worked out. But I'm gonna weigh myself so that it's official.
No idea why his face was all cut up or why he's trying to drop the official shit statistics here and pooping on the ground and weighing himself for preparation of the poop. It's the reason I'm even showing like these moments is because all of this has built up to what's happened with him being arrested for the terroristic threats against Joe Rogan. And even though he got arrested and he has since been released after the arrest with an ankle monitor, he is continuing to make the threats. Literally like 15 minutes after being released, he went and started posting more videos making threats against him.
Good morning, primals. From the vibration plate of the greatest state in the world, Austin, Texas. Texas is the state, just to be clear. Bags under my eyes, haven't slept a whole lot. And it's been an amazing gift. When you fracture the physical, don't sleep, don't eat much, drink much. You go deeper into something else. You gotta maybe express something else. Something else. Ask me what the password is to Wi-Fi. I can't wait to share it.
He's made more than just this video here, but I think this one really encapsulates everything that he's kind of been posting. He did make another video going on all fours in the hotel hallway, allegedly, but that one's been deleted, or at the very least, I can't find it. But in this one, you can see when he's rambling here, the thoughts aren't connected. He doesn't look well. Now, I'm not here to try and like say it's all because of his diet. He ate so much raw meat, raw nutsack and testicles that he used to love to preach about, and he gave himself brain worms, and now this is the result. I have no clue what's actually led to this. All I know is that there is something seriously wrong. He is supposed to be undergoing psychiatric evaluation to check his mental state. Joe Rogan has said that he's never even really had any interaction with Liver King. So no one really knows what started all of this and why. But he is not planning on stopping anytime soon with trying to find and fight Joe Rogan, from the sound of things.
We're gonna go somewhere today here in Austin. If anybody knows where Seth Rogen's, the other version of him that rhymes with blow, if anyone knows where its family's gonna be today, if you could let my team know so that we can stay within 200 yards, not close to them, to stay away from them. Oh, please, actually, I redact that. Don't do anything to their family.
That's crazy. Basically like trying to get the UAV online here to locate him and his family to be aware of at all times. He then goes to try and wipe that from the record about like, no, don't do that. We just want to make sure that I'm not violating the restraining order. Wink, wink is kind of the impression there. It is a really odd thing to hear. And it's not like he needed to post this video. He could have not posted it.
This thing will help me make sure. You know how good that feels on the ankle? That part where it bounces, jiggles like that? Making my ankle strong for that. I'm picking a fight. Who's it with? Seth Rogen. It's with Seth Rogen. And what's it for? Family.
Now he's saying Seth Rogen now because he can't explicitly say Joe Rogan, but he does say like the other Rogan, you know, that rhymes with blow, Joe Blow, you know, that kind of thing. So he's now trying to like wiggle around the restrictions here by throwing Seth Rogen under the bus. He's dropping the primal titties on him here now, saying like it's with Seth Rogen, but he means Joe. And I have to imagine posting these kind of videos isn't helping his case. He is continuing to make the same threats that landed him in jail in the first place. Now, it's not just his mentality that seems to have been like poisoned and rotting and whatever's going on there. His body, there is something going on with like his entire being. In some of the videos he's posted, like, he looks so unwell physically. Like in this video, for example, this is another video where he explicitly says, "I'm calling you out, Joe Rogan, I'm picking a fight with you," and he's holding 2 weapons. Look at his stomach. It's distended and his belly button looks like a prolapsed anus. His whole torso looks inflamed and infected. That belly button, though, I'm pretty confident is an umbilical hernia. It seems like his intestines are desperately trying to leave the battle bus here through his belly button. That cannot be healthy. Like, it looks like in Left 4 Dead right before the boomer blows up, but he's not like fat. I think it's just like so much juice or something here. I don't know, but it does not look normal. So yeah, the Liver King update here is a sad one, because I remember when it came out about all the steroids he used, he made a big statement about, like, you know, he wasn't happy about it and he wanted to make that change. And it doesn't seem like that ever happened, and things have only gotten worse for him. I do genuinely hope he gets the help that he needs here, because it is something he is going to need professional help with, I imagine. And overall, just a very concerning spiral here from Liver King. Just wanted to talk about it briefly. That's really about it. So yeah.